All right, going here, next to the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? I would just say, I thought it was pretty neat in the principal's reports, but the high school one, they put the attendance thing in there. And I was visiting with Brett, showed up there in the nineties, and all of a sudden it had a little bit up, and that's pretty cool to be able to keep track of the attendance like that and how it goes, so. There's a good. Not any questions on that, then I'll move to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Second. For a second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Well, we'll move it on to our reports. Mike, you're up first.
Wherever you're comfortable, come on up and sit down.
Come on over.
Okay, well, hopefully everybody got this. I apologize. I kind of like went on these reports doing a running so I can go back through years prior, what I had for goals and whatnot. So well, if you got that packet in there, pages 10, 11, 12 are the ones for the current year of what's going on. So couple things, and I'll try to keep it brief. You know, the year started out good. We actually at this point have the routes that we had for this year's staff. So we don't have any open routes. We started the year with 2. We've been able to get everybody trained and certified, and we have them filled at this point. So, you know, this, so to speak, to make a little bit easier transition. I guess I'll start off with it. I'm not even gonna call it a challenge, just changes that I guess were implemented this year, and they're going well, but first couple of years have been trying to get things in order, and this year's kind of trying to get everybody on the same page. Just implementing the field trip guidelines and vehicle usage guidelines and all of that. Been a little bit of pushback, but you know, it's within guidelines of everything. So we're just trying to make consistency throughout, you know, pre-K through 12, or 10 in this case, 12 if they're remote, but across the board for every grade. Trying to make sure that the field trips and excursions are equal across the board. Nobody's getting extra, nobody's, you know, and we want people to take advantage of it. We have teachers that don't, so we encourage that as well. You know, if they haven't used them in the past, this is what the guidelines are, this is what you can do, you know, so. But that's going well. The support from the principals and administration is great. They're fantastic. So absolutely nothing but praise for those guys. So that's kind of been the biggest challenge, like I said, staffing and upholding the rules, I guess. On the good side of things, we've kind of tried a little pilot program, I guess, to try to get some staffing. Very excited about it. Everybody's, again, very supportive on it. But the idea kind of came of, I guess, trying to get more teachers and school staff to get their CDLs. The challenge of that is the testing process and where we're at. You know, Topeka and Concordia are 2 closest places to go take your test. That's not convenient for a teacher. That's not convenient for food service. That's not convenient for janitorial. So we've kind of come up with a program, and I think it got included on your board docs. I have copies of it, and it's just kind of a step-by-step process of what it takes to get a CDL. And the scary thing is it's 10 items long. It is not an easy process. So the first step on that is getting your learner's permit. We coordinated with the state, and they're actually going to come out and do a proxy test here, and they're going to be housed at the high school, hopefully. And they will actually give the written test. It's open to all of our staff, and it's open to the public as well. So the state, it has to be open. You can't just have a select group. So, which is fine. We can accommodate that. It's a great service to the community too. Also, it brings in a pool of people that I need to talk to. So even if somebody isn't a current employee, but they want to come in and get their CDL, take advantage of, being able to sit down with them and say, hey, we have this opportunity if you're interested. You aren't required to do anything, but it's the pool of people that I'm trying to get. So they're coming November 7th. The registration's open. You can take any test in the CDL program. You can take general knowledge, class A, class B, hazmat, any test you want to take, you can take at this. It's also no fee. So I just found that out today. There's no fee to take it. They'll give you, if you pass the test, they'll give you a sheet of paper. You go down to the DMV and hand it to them. They'll process it and you can do it at any DMV. It doesn't have to be a CDL one. And they'll charge you a $13 fee and then whatever extra test, but there's no fee to come here and take it and get the pass. So if you know anybody that's interested, this is a golden opportunity for somebody. It's going to be limited to 40 and it's going to fill up quick. I actually have 17 within our staff that are interested right now, which is amazing. I mean, that's sweet. I haven't had 17 applications in 3 years total. I mean, it's pretty cool. The other kind of thing that I've been really excited about, and it's been a great coordination, a lot of work, is that at this point, we can do pretty much everything to get a CDL, especially with them coming up here, short of the actual driving test, and I'm working on that. So they have the federal ELDT training. We can administer that and log that with the federal government. The drive time, we can obviously do that. The physical exam, we can coordinate that with the health department. We've got that coordinated. Defensive driving, Tim Kaufman is taking the defensive driving and he's teaching that for us now. First aid and CPR, or nursing staff will do it. Clearinghouse registration, we have all the access to that to get you signed up on the clearinghouse. Drug test, again, we have in-house drug testing, so you can just come in and do it. They do it in-house. And the supervised training, we're working with Janine Gillette. She's the new employee. She's going to kind of take over a lot of the training duties. So that's something that's very exciting. And Gwen does all the federal paperwork and everything. So it's a team effort. I mean, there's a lot of steps. So something I'm super excited about. It's been it's going to be a great service. I'd like to make it an annual thing if we can. But like I said, expense for us is very minimal. Just house it and then coordinate. So I think that's a lot of potential there, being very good for everybody.
And Mr. McCoy, we do have some students signed up.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. Absolutely. It's open, like I said, open to everybody. So we've got, and there may be other programs, but I know the lineman program in particular, you have to have your CDL before you enter that. This is open to the high school. So we have the counselor at the high school. She's advertising it up there, and we do have a couple of students that are going to take it. So that's a huge benefit because they've been going to Beloit and spending ridiculous amount of money to get everything up there. Whereas, and we haven't quite hammered out the details because this list right here, we can accommodate, we can do everything, but this is for people that are going to work for us. We aren't going to do the rest of this page for everybody else, but we need to have a discussion on what we can extend to our high school students. Again, most of this is just our time, not an actual expense. We can accommodate for this high school students. I would like to, your choice, but I would like to. It's not any extra work. And if we're moving them along on a good career, I'm all for it. So that was my tentative plan. Like I said, there's just our time. So, and if it became an issue, I'm sure we could volunteer our time. So everybody feels pretty strongly about that. Facilities, it's not huge, it's in there, but we'll have some upgrades and touch-ups we need to get that down there. Heat would be nice. Not trying to grab, heat would be good. The other pet project that I'm working on, and there's a little bit about it in my docs. I have more of a breakdown. It's just something that I'm working on, a pet project. And something that's being tried in other districts and something that we have kind of moved to, as far as you have different staff, and I'm sorry if you don't need all this. With certain staff, it's a part-time gig, it's morning, afternoon, extra money, that type of deal. We're having issues bringing younger people in that want this as a career, as a job. When you're getting paid hourly, you're asked to do this sheet, not just once when you start your job, every time. We're asking a lot of these people, always saying, I hope I can give you X amount of hours. I can tell you how much you're gonna make, but I can't tell you what your paycheck's gonna be every month, because it's gonna depend, and a lot of it is how much you want to work. So I'm trying to work on a little bit of a system that would be more attractive to a younger or career-based individual versus a part-time doing something. And that's what we need. We need route drivers that are guaranteed an income that show up every day. So activity drivers, we need those too, but for the future and sustainability, we really need to get some younger people. When I'm the kid, it's a bad day. That's a bad day. So, but that's a project we're working on. Jack and I have talked about it a little bit, and we'll see what happens with it. I have crazy ideas. We'll see what it ends up being, but that's where I'm at. There was a discussion. Thank you. Appreciate you. It says it right there, rebate. The activity bus, we kind of contemplate on what we want to do on that. I know money's going to turn kind of tight here, so we need to kind of, I think outside of the box. Current federal rebate that just opened up is better. It's like the older ones. It's still a zero emission rebate. No diesels, no gasoline. It's got to be either electric or propane. Every person that I've talked to that has electric buses currently, the best response you get from, hey, how do you like your electric bus, is that's about it. That's it. They are not ready. The technology just isn't there. Limited range, very limited reliability, very limited serviceability. There's a lot of them just sitting parked right now. Can't get parts, can't get service. A lot of them were built in Canada, Lion Bus Company. They just aren't servicing them. I think we should gear towards, two-step process. If we're going to continue to pursue federal rebates, I think we need to be geared more towards propane as a zero emission to capture the rebate dollars. I have no issues with the propane buses. A lot of the companies are kind of going that direction. Cummins in particular has developed an engine specifically. It's a multi-fuel engine. Looks kind of interesting first year of it, who knows? But it's a gas, diesel, propane. Basically, they change the head on it, same block, same parts, just change the head on it and what it runs off of fuel wise. So serviceability should be there, but with any new motor, kind of a question mark the first year, but it's got a lot of potential on it. I talked to our bulk services that give us our oil and def and all that stuff. He's putting together a presentation on a propane fill station. Basically, it's a 500-gallon residential propane tank with a high pressure pump that's attached to it. You can lease it, buy it. They're still developing their program, but it'd be something that we would be able to house. Also, you're supposed to be able to fill these at any commercial propane fill station, which there's some of them around, but Tractor Supply apparently can fill these things too. So if there's a local Tractor Supply, you can hook up to it and they've got the high pressure pump and can fill them. So I think the usability, and typically you can get different ranges. If we got something within the 400-mile range, should be more than ample to do for an activity bus. So again, $45,000 rebate. They're not offering any infrastructure money. I was hoping they would, because I've got plans for a fence and changing our lot a little bit to make it a little bit more user friendly, but I was hoping to apply some of those dollars, but that's not there this year for the propane. But I think we probably ought to look at getting bids on an activity bus, hydraulic brake, propane powered, 70 passenger-ish, and multi-use, something that we can use for sports, but something that we can also use for activities or route if needed. So we run 2 high capacity buses in town for our squirrel route. And so it can be utilized for that as well. So it's not just going to sit there, not just be for, 18, it would be a multi-use vehicle. So I think there would be savings there. I think that's the way things going anyways. I don't think we're going to be buying diesels 10 years from now. That looks like it. So together, because I know it's already in the budget for the activity bus. I'd be more than happy to get you the information for, infrastructure and vehicle costs. We can bid them out. When you do the bid process now, you send it to one dealer, which is okay. The state's authorized it, and they give you the prices for 3 different manufacturers, and then it's considered a bid. So I can get you all brands. I'm not, we have all Bluebirds right now, but I tell you what, Thomas brought a bus out the other day and that is a nice machine. So I'm not brand specific. I think we go with the bang for the buck and what's gonna be the most usable, and everything you need is just a click away anyway, so.
What's the fuel mileage compared?
I don't even know. Haven't dug into it. I mean, if it's like the older propane vehicles, it's measured differently.
Sure.
So I think it would probably be on bar. I guarantee you it'll be more efficient than our gas buses. Probably be less efficient than our diesel buses. Our gas buses are 10 to 12 miles to the gallon on a good day. Except for our new buses, which are 4 to 5 on a good day. Yeah. So it would be in between those. And cost wise for fuel is gonna be probably less than both on your typical day. Middle of winter, it's gonna be expensive, rest of the year will be cheap. Just like when you feel you're taking home. But we were able to house our own fuel, we can also take advantage of filling when the prices are right. Which is what we've done with the DEF and other items, is trying to, when it gets cheap, we'll fill out.
Well, at the same time, you can split the contract also with the propane.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You can do the flat pay or however you.
You thought about doing bulk diesel so you don't get into the same problem you did last year?
It is a challenge. City is gonna be a challenge to get any kind of fuel. The beauty of the propane is it's a residential tank. So you don't have the hoops to jump through. If you go anything more than 500 gallons on diesel or gas, it's a nightmare. You have to have a set, cage facility, you have to have the containment systems, you have to have the fire protection. Insurance will beat you up severely if you have a tank sitting on property, though. Your insurance is bad now. You put a diesel tank somewhere on the district property and it will be ridiculous. So we've looked into it. It's a great, if we could do it.
I was just thinking about all the disaster you had when it was negative 10.
Yep, I know. I would love to. Like I said, we looked into it, but the too many obstacles. With our challenges that we have already. The insurance is kind of one of the bigger ones. I mean, we're already paying so much as it is, and yeah, throw that in there. A lot of liability. That's about all I got. Yeah, you remember more than I did. We're okay. Questions? No?
Thank you.
Absolutely. And if any of you guys need a secret book or the how-to guide, you know where I'm at. We'll hook you up.
Move on to board reports.
State, at least congratulations to our district rising award educators, Mrs. Chestnut and Ivy, thank you. And anyway, I just want to state thank you for a job well done. That was excellent. Everybody's effort is much appreciated on that. The other thing is also noticed on your monthly messenger.
Yeah.
On that.
I can't take credit for all of it. Matt's the mastermind behind the design and making it look really nice.
Well, it's excellent. It really is. It's nice to see that come out, but thank you very much for all your help on that, all of you.
I wanted to commend the communications that's coming out as well. I'm getting a ton of emails from the teachers. They're doing their best to communicate with parents as long as we actually open the like a peek in the classrooms to let people see what's going on. It's really helped dispel some myths in the community about, well, you don't teach finance. Well, actually we do. And you don't teach welding. Well, actually we do. So it's been great having that there. And looking ahead, we will have one more meeting before KSB. And I wanted to ask if we could all of us that are going, take a look at the breakout sessions and kind of all attend the same ones. So number one, we don't break Open Meetings Act by having 4 of us discussing things together. And 2, just to bring back more knowledge from the district if we're not all attending the same sessions.
August can probably put together a
I think we
list,
did that in the past.
and then
That's pretty-
you guys can electronically put a check mark next to one, if that works for you.
That'd be
Maybe in the
great.
effort of time, you guys can hit it when you're ready.
Anybody else? A few here. One is a big thank you to Jack and Kathy for picking up the slack while August's been out of the office and with all the audits and stuff like that going on. It's work. Appreciate you doing that extra duty during that time. Is that, as I said before, I visited with, from the last meeting about trying to get some type of temporary handicap parking with the athletic complex. And so I talked to, Mayor Thatcher and, he said and we talked about some things there. I haven't heard back yet. But, you know, Dave sent me some information. I think he sent evaluations on how many spots we gotta have by the state. That's not a question at all. Question comes into is that when you look at the number of handicap tags that's issued in Clay County and how much it increased each of the last 3 years, I just don't think we have enough. And so the thing then was to try to get something temporary now and then look at, is there a place or a way to add additional spots? When it's full for a 7th grade game, it's telling you something. And so on our tour, Craig Easterberg was there with me at the public safety thing and chance to visit. So on our tour, that's one thing, is to look at, is there something, because I don't know how open, you know, the city controls those 2 streets and up above is out. You know, I mean, it would take, if you're gonna call that handicap, it would take ramps and all kinds of stuff. So it has to be, you know, it has to be something on our own property, the way it sounds right now. And but just something to look at, you know, to get it more spots where we could do that. So but that's my update on that. Any questions on that or anything?
It's the police that enforce handicap parking, right? It's not our responsibility
Well,
even on, because it's,
I went there for a Saturday morning and the officials were parked in the handicap parking thing. Now, it wasn't all full on a Saturday morning, so it wasn't like they were taking some away. But the officials were parked in the handicap parking. So I think that's something that,
but so it's still not, it's not our responsibility. That'd be one where you'd say like, hey, can you send a cop up here and help enforce this for us? It's not,
And we've done that before in the
yeah.
past.
So
Yeah,
it's-
like on game nights, if we notice that there's cars there that don't, we will call PD, the non-emergency number, and then they'll come. And they write tickets.
and so, and Mark coming and share his thoughts. I'd just like to try to be able to do something there to provide a few more spots, whatever that may be, and
If you go back to the officials parking there, that's the people that are running the event's responsibility. They shouldn't allow them to park there.
Okay.
They should tell them, hey, you guys can't park there, you need to park down below or park somewhere else.
Yeah.
I would think, if it's on a Saturday, you start ticketing officials, you won't have anybody come.
Good point, yeah. And did I understand correctly, they shut the gates when the parking lot is full, when the spots are full, but so they can still ramp up that entrance, right?
Yeah, a lot of people
Just
pull in
not
there
by
and
the
drop off,
stairs.
and
Okay.
then it's accessible. So like, there's no need to stop at the stairs. You can stop, pull in at the handicap area. I see people doing it all the time, let them out, and then it's completely accessible. Mhm.
like I said, some I think we need to look at. And part of that can be when we do, you know, talk to Craig a little bit and whether any ideas when we start to do those facilities. There definitely complex on the 28th, if there's any suggestions or something, or just that. I attended the coffee time that Brett did at Java Junkies. See how that would work. Matt was there. I thought there was some very good, great information that was exchanged. I think that as I talked to Brett, the challenge is going to be is to find a place to do that at a time where more people can attend. obviously on Friday at 8:30, a lot of people are working in the morning. But I was really impressed with the information that was exchanged and to get that out there. So that'll be the challenge, is find what could be a time in that we could draw more people into place and give them a chance. But I thought the information shared was great. And very good. And with that, I think that's all I have is that I would just say on the communications part, I agree with Linda. I mean, that stuff is great that we're getting, and in the classrooms and things like that. We just got to make sure the number one calls, and I do the chain of command. When somebody calls me, I get the information, I pass it on. And is the communication is most important when we make changes from what we did in the past years. No matter what that would be, changes. And so I agree, sometimes change is coming up, but if we could really emphasize on getting out the know, I think that needs to be the emphasis, because they are our customers, and we need to make sure that we do that on future changes. When they're used to doing something some way, then it gets changed. I mean, change is hard for a lot of people. So, and the best way to do it is the different communications. And I think we're on the right path. Man, I think you're doing a great job of getting that stuff out there. All right. Anything else?
I had the pleasure of reading the high school promoter for the first time, and very well done, very well written articles, and I enjoyed it immensely. So I would encourage the board to take a look at that.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else? All right, no, we will move on. Brett, your report.
Yeah, my apologies for not, I was kind of reviewing notes. I realized I didn't load my report. It's the last month. We don't have August watching over us to make sure it's all ready to go. Echo what Tracy said. There was a few gals within our office that really allowed August to have a true maternity leave, and she deserved that and needed that for her family. And so Andrea and Jacqueline and Kathy really picked up a ton of extra jobs and duties. This is a busy time of the year, and they did it without complaining and put in a lot of time and effort and work, and still got things done to this to that high level of accuracy. And a lot of the people don't realize, and I could throw a ton of acronyms at you, but this time of year, the amount collect and submit, whether it be federal or state, is significant. And then you throw in count day and all of the data that goes around count day, and the time and energy and attention to detail that has to go into those things is significant. And so I know Kathy's not here, but to those three, thank you very much for your extra time and effort. As a result of some of those reports, unfortunately, some not so good news that we need to have on the forefront that we've been talking about. And when you look at that enrollment chart, there's two different ways in which we collect revenue, and so you'll see head count, FTE, and those are different. And our funding is not based on the number of heads, aka head count. It's based on FTE, because there's a lot of different reasons. Preschool is half FTE. You have some part-time students that come part-time. There's lots of different factors. So just know that when you look at FTE and head count, they are different. And so when we do look at that, when we look at FTE, what we are funded on, what we will be funded on the year or preceding year, or an average this year, whichever's higher. In shape, we did lose about $120,000 in at-risk funds. because our direct cert students did decrease this year because of some of the federal guidelines and rules that go with that. When you take into some other factors of our total over and under of outgoing staff versus incoming, generally speaking, that's cheaper, which we will be able to absorb and be fine with. Unfortunately, as we look to next year, so next year we will have to use current year enrollment or a year prior. Those are the only two. So a year from now, we'll either have to use September 20th count day FTE or this year's enrollment. And this year's enrollment over last year, we're down 58 students. About 36, 7 of those is in kindergarten. And the rest is just kind of spread out across the scope. And so are some other factors there. That's your straight up base aid. So that's your number. That's not taking preschool at risk. That's not taking some of these other factors that we get to count on current year weightings. But we can't predict those. Like there's not a piece of data that we can say today we know is going to be true a year from September. So for budget planning, we have to use that true base aid number. And so at 58 students, and I talked to some of my finance experts at KSD and kind of the best way to holistic estimate, and they're all estimates and loss of revenue. So 58 students, every student has a little bit different of a value. Some have a significant value, some not quite as much. And so where's the sweet spot on where we find that kind of that average? And so if we look at what base aid per pupil is going to be next year, 5,383, I think. So that's one piece to it, but there are very few students that are just calculated at base aid. You have transportation weightings, you have your free lunch weightings, you have your special education weightings. There's a lot of CTE overall weighted FTE rate. So that would add a half to every student, and we know that value is probably going to be a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but my colleagues at KSD felt like that was a very safe budget number to use. That number would be about $470,000. And so that means that we need to do our best to reduce our costs for next year by that amount. Now, there's some other factors. The first one being base aid per pupil will likely go up next year, but we can't guarantee that because this will be the first year that our legislators aren't governed by the Gannon case. And so they're going to have a lot more flexibility than they have in the last 5 years. And so I don't know that we can go into next year and bank on that. But if they would abide by what the law says, it would be the 3-year average of the CPI. And so that would be just probably, it looks like just over 4%. So for us, that would be in that high 300 range, and is what we would receive if enrollment stayed flat and didn't decline again. So the other factor is we're graduating 2 larger senior classes at both the high school in Clay Center and the high school in Wakefield. And unfortunately, our trends at kindergarten have been down. We're in the 50s in Clay Center and I think 7 at Wakefield this year. And we're graduating big classes, I think in the 20s and almost 100. And so we're not out of the woods yet. And so that's why I feel like it's highly important that we do some significant work between now and the January or February timeframe, because as you guys saw in our audit, 78% of our expenses are people. And so that's going to be the quickest way to accomplish some expense reduction. And I don't want to scare anybody. I don't have any indication or plans to where we would need to be in a RIF policy. I think we can phase this out through attrition. More of when people are leaving or retiring on their own. Being very creative and thoughtful about how we fill those positions or how we move people around within our organization to still offer the best services and offerings for our students. But just finding stuff isn't gonna be the solution. It will help, but it's not gonna get us where we need to be. So yes, I think we can use the increase in base aid per pupil to soften that 470,000 number. So if we planned on, if it was a 4% increase in base aid, maybe we could use half of that to where we're now down to 150 or 200. But anyhow, so the idea would be that kind of a timeline to talk to you guys about was here in October through December, here in the next few months. Why so quick? Well, we have to make people decisions, employee decisions starting in January-ish, March, in that time frame. So we kind of need to have a pretty good idea on planning, thoughts, strategic actions by that time frame. Certainly February or March. So we had talked internally about potentially engaging with conversations with our admin team, our district leadership team, our BLTs and our staff, perhaps even putting together like a committee, a representative of different groups down the road. Maybe engaging our site council every January. We do some kind of community engagement. Lots of times that's our site council and remember our site councils are the advisory committees to our buildings in each building. And so we thought about engaging in some conversations with that group to engage some community and get some of their thoughts. But certainly for this table and some final decisions, I would think February would need to be a target to have some finality to some of those conversations. So just wanted to put that out there. I know it's not real positive information, but it's the reality of where we are. Birth rates, we've looked through history, census data. Can't really find too many trends. Readers, I believe, in the last few years, it looks like district-wide, we probably need to start planning long-term for class between our two communities, probably classes in the 80 range, not closer to 100. And I think that's just probably more of our baseline based on birth rates. I don't know what other data you use, but based on our countywide birth rates, it looks in current enrollment. It looks like we just need to develop plans and we have time. We can phase this in over time. It's not time to hit the panic button yet. We have good cash reserves. We have good carryover last year. So we have some time. We don't have to rush into any rash decisions, but we certainly need a long-term plan in place to start phasing and adjusting to 80 to 90 students per class moving forward is what the data is looking at, like to me. So thoughts, questions?
I don't look at it as a big concern, at least from my viewpoint, and as more as a challenge. Because this, like you say, with the birth rate enrollments, it's been fluctuating. If you look through the past decades, up and down, if you look 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s till recent, then this is something that obviously you yourself in this position has had to deal with on a constant basis. So it's like, okay, if we take at least past performance of what has happened and how the boards, past boards have been able to fluctuate with the accommodate for instance, on the, being able to still maintain our product out there, which is what we're doing with the students, actually stable, sustain and be stable, then we can come up with a solution. We can here. I'm just like I say, I'm not looking at it as a dire experience to where, it's really gonna be, a woe is me scenario. I'll put it that way. I'm looking at it as a challenge where we can get through this. We're gonna be able to. That's my personal opinion on it.
So you talk about the admin team and DLT developing that tier 1, 2, 3. So that's basically like your wants versus needs.
Yeah, so kind of, and it's just idea gathering, it's brainstorming, where do we have some room to think about adjusting or changing? What are some of the, typically your tier 1 are gonna be those things that aren't gonna have an impact to students, that aren't gonna have an impact to instruction, teaching and learning, those kinds of things that we could maybe look at shifting or doing differently. Tier 2, it gets a little bit harder and it gets closer to our students and teaching and learning. And tier 3 are when we start having a significant impact to learning and teaching and instruction. And it's kind of a guide. It's a starting point of where we might be able to shift some of our expenses and services. And some of that, sometimes that's just taking a really hard look at what we're doing and finding creative ways to do it differently that might still have a really, really great impact for kids. And I think there's opportunity in that sometimes too, to really unpack and look at everything that we're doing as a system. Is look at things differently. And potentially even doing better. Do better than we're doing now. But it's,
I mean, it's simply dollars in, dollars out and priorities. That's why we need to take our time with doing it. So I agree with you. We need to get started. And, see where that.
and there's lots of different creative things, as we start looking at our facility tours and facility needs, a lot of folks would be like, well, facility needs and we're decreasing expenses. Well, there can be some strategies within that. If we look at long term, if we can have some funding sources take over some of our facilities needs, shift some more salaries into capital outlay. So if capital outlay doesn't have to take care of so many deferred maintenance options, there are some opportunities or even some budgets from general fund over to capital outlay that are allowable. You can start finding some pretty big chunks of change. The challenge is mirroring and combining that while still taking care of our facilities in a high quality manner, in which we already have. And I really think there's an opportunity potentially with our bond paying off here in a couple of years to really looking at our future deferred maintenance and seeing if a wraparound bond of some kind could pick up some of those deferred maintenance costs that are significant. And then we could shift other expenses into the capital outlay fund, saving money in general fund or LOB, and continuing some of our teaching and learning services that are so important to our kids. And so I'm excited about that aspect. And again, it's going to be a communication thing on, well, how do we talk about facilities when we're talking about decreasing expenses? It's because strategies that go hand in hand to hopefully accomplish multiple things.
And that was part of the reason for moving up the facilities tour here, which we'll talk about in that date to get that looked at. So, very good.
Do you know our contingency reserve amount?
It's in the 700s, I believe. It's in our audit, off the cuff, 700 to 800, somewhere in there. I think, don't quote me on that. My video's off though. I think it's in 700 to 800 right now. I included some information on the Stop It app in there too. A lot of people don't realize that we have this tool, but if you have a chance, take a look at it. We've been getting a lot of great use out of it from our kids. We're learning a lot about from students. what's going on in their lives. They can report anonymously. They can have two-way communication with any of our admin team. It's connected to the police department, so if it's after hours, that call goes immediately to the PD. It's monitored 24/7. It's kind of like ADT. You know, they advertise 24/7. And so anyhow, just wanted to throw that out there. You know, just reflecting on our school threat that we had a couple weeks ago at the high school. You know, we never liked those, never enjoyed those, especially late on a Sunday. Just so what we did, just the highlights, it was a complete report on our investigation. We communicated as soon as we could with parents and staff. I'd say within an hour of us receiving it, we had something out to our parents and our staff, keeping them informed. And keep in mind, we didn't know a lot because it wasn't our investigation. We knew just enough, working with law enforcement and our county attorney, to know that it was going on. And through the night, we stayed in communication. So thankful for our partnership with them. They helped assist us in making the decision on whether or not it was safe to go to school. They investigated through the evening, did determine that they had it under control, had the things in place, and they felt very comfortable with our students returning to school. And we got that communication out to parents that morning. So. And it's always hard, you know, you don't want to send a text the next morning as, you know, our parents' alarms are going off and stuff. And so overall, just thankful for the partnership that we have with our local law enforcement. And I think we had some really good feedback from our staff and parents on the communication and the frequency of that. And so.
We were Swift Alert when that happened. And Swift Alert only took in for the parents one guardian, and then you had to add other guardians. That was not anything we could control. And Swift Alert is no longer a business. And so as of October 1st, we moved to School Messenger. And with School Messenger, we pushed everybody that has a guardian contact into it. And so then they can opt out. That was something they offered, and we said, yes, we want everybody pushed in, and then they can.
They had to be listed
Remove
with their
themselves.
information in Power School
Correct.
to be able to get that.
Yeah.
And a parent can always log on and edit their Power School.
Yeah. Or they can call the office if they don't know how.
Yep.
And the office will do it. I've had a couple people, somebody didn't get our text from School Messenger switched over. And it looks funny because it's not a phone number anymore. It's like a 6-digit number. Yeah, looks like a, you know, coupon coming from whatever it is. I've just ran a test with just that person. And I say, the test, this is Jacqueline, you know, and I call them, tell them ahead of time, just so we make sure it works, and it does. So if anybody has a question, just contact your office and we'll test your number out.
You were good on the number. According to the audit, the contingency fund is 799,000.
There you go. Don't trust my memory very often. All the gals in my office know that.
Any questions? Brett? Okay. Next is Anita's report.
She's at another Kelly District Board meeting tonight, so.
I thought the most interesting from her report, I think it was her newsletters, like the challenge she had. They asked the two of the new employees in there, what the biggest challenge was for their jobs. And both of them said paperwork, time to do all the paperwork. And so there's no doubt that contributes to high turnover. And so hopefully one day that won't be such a challenge. It'll always be there, but hopefully as we move forward, Jay interviewed two people and two new, and they get the exact same answer. I thought that was interesting and the challenge of for sure. So that, and then we go to Jacqueline report.
Any questions on? Anyone? The biggest thing on my notation communication if there's a change. As of right now, we don't have a driving instructor for driver's ed. By November first, if we still do not have one, we will send a list of options, whether it be neighboring schools or whatever that we can offer to families. So I still have a couple more calls left to see.
Can we
But-
contract anybody like we do some of the other
But I'm trying to,
services, you know?
that's what I'm trying to get, and I haven't found one. So I actually contacted a service center and have them out looking as well. Driver's ed's different than it was 30 years ago. It's very much like how Mike described the CDL part, where we have the online coursework to prepare them for the written test. And we don't prepare them for the driving. We're just a testing facility. And it requires families, once you get that permit, to go put in the hours and work with your child and then come to us for testing. And we're not the teachers of driving. We really aren't. We are for the written test, but it's becoming even harder to find, and it takes a special endorsement on your license in order to be able to do that as well. It's not any teacher can do it. Mike can't do it for us. So. And we have put it out there to staff, and I had a couple interested, and then when it came to starting the coursework, they weren't interested at this time. And they might be in the future, they told me, so we might be having a plan B just for a year or so. We're gonna keep working, but since November 1st will happen before our next board meeting, whatever I send out, I'll make sure Mr. Nelson sends to you guys so you're aware as well.
Also, and then the review of the federal program.
Sure. Speaking of paperwork. So I have two attachments on there. The first one, not the first one, I guess the one that says, yeah, federal reports overview. That is one I do yearly, just to give you some examples of some of our federal funds, and this is not special ed or food service funds, but more on the instructional and teacher side. So Title I, and then Title IIA, and Title IV, the students, does not correlate to our free and reduced numbers yearly. Okay, I know in the spring what we're getting the next year. And I put over there a little description of kind of how we spend those funds. And then in the bottom of that table is Title IV money that is connected to 21st century. And on the next report, and I'll get to that, I kind of broke that down a little more for Lincoln, Garfield, and Wakefield. So that we're in year 4 of 5 for Lincoln and Garfield, and year 5 of 5 for Wakefield. And then below, I also have our Perkins funds. That's changing just a little bit. That is divvied up amongst all the districts, and unless you have 15,000, I believe, slated to your district, it has to go through a consortium, and we're always riding that line between 13 and 14,000. So we've been a part of the Smoky Hill Consortium. The interpretation of the Perkins federal program, they say what was written wasn't changed, but the interpretation did. And so everything that we have through those Perkins funds, it's actually part of the consortium. It's really not ours. And the way they used to do it was they would tell us, yes, you can go buy that piece of equipment for the shop. You buy it, and then Andrea and Danae would send a receipt, would be reimbursed. They have changed that this year, and they are making the purchases and then sending the items to us. I predict they're going to move most of those funds to a lot, to ask a service center to do the equipment purchasing like that for, close to 40 districts. That's a little crazy. And so like, for example, we got a couple cameras and a couple lenses. Although they're here and they're up in our journalism class, technically, any of the 40 districts from the consortium could ask to borrow it. So, there's a couple other Perkins grants that I wrote last year to get, some equipment in our shops, and they fall under that too, which is frustrating because I did the paperwork and they say they're part of the consortiums, but, just some changes there. We're very thankful for everything we have received through that. Definitely using it to help our CTE programs. I think it's going to become more challenging in the future to get some of those funds, so. We'll do our best, and yeah,
Especially with the budget things and that, the more we can get, you know, I appreciate the efforts to get that type of stuff. We can get, and then the main thing is, like say with the budgeting thing, it looks like Wakefield's is the only one that's up this year. As far as funds, it'll have to be renewed, right?
for the
With
grant,
last year
yes, correct.
grant, so just keep us up to date on, as we're going through this budgeting thing of grant money that won't be replaced as soon as you know, or as soon as it will. That's kind of the main thing for this, to have this.
Schools.
We won't know till May, yeah.
Right.
There's, I reflected in the last 14 years, that's the only time that timeline has looked different. We usually know by May. Kind of what's going on. So in the grants report, I put, these are grants that deal with people, with personnel. And so, I have the information for a 21st century grant, to a little bit of funding through that KDHE COVID grant for part of this one nurse's salary. And then I put on here, I think you guys wanted this to, the cost for summer opportunities. And prior to ESSER money, we did offer a credit recovery at both middle school and high school. And the summer learning was just 1 week project lead, and it's what the budget can fund to regularly attended project lead, get in first. I don't know that we ever had to tell anybody no, because you pay for transportation. You can for a field trip, but not to and from a program. Unless you are a REAP school, which is typically Western Kansas is our rural education programs that receive that kind of funding, so. And then I listed on here also our with our communications position, part of that is matched with a grant, and then the parents as teachers grant is also on there too.
How long is that Clay County's grant?
Five, with an option to renew up to 10.
Very good.
With the same amount of money for the next one.
Any questions? Well, I appreciate that report. Discussion in business. Fine.
First month of review, just updating the match law.
Any questions on that? About the technology infrastructure?
Probably need final approval on that policy, Tracy.
Up above,
Yeah.
on the, oh, it just said discussion.
Oh.
Say action, but we can. Because we talked about last month.
It was. Yep. E as written.
I'll make a motion to approve the GAOE. Work as written.
Second.
Okay, second, all those in favor? Motion carries. Technology infrastructure,
No changes, just repeat from last month.
We had, been and came and talked about that too last month, so. I recommend accepting the bids from NCS for technology infrastructure. Updates for switches and patch cables in the amount of $28,735.42 for no fee. Second, all those in favor? 7-0. Name and advertising. Update.
Yeah, we just made the updates from the feedback that you guys gave last month. Visited with you guys at the agenda planning, went back and watched the video a little bit. I think I got captured everything that you guys kind of gave feedback on last month, and so we can keep working on it, or you guys can improve it.
Donation or through the advertising, but this kind of makes it simpler that it's over $5,000 that needs to come before the board. You know, specifically before the board, or if it's more than 3 years, specifically got to come in front of the board. I think it accomplishes what we need to accomplish at this time.
Well, like 1,500 to 1,501 to 5,000. It's 23 years.
When they're working out the deal, you know. So,
Yeah, it looked like a good start, good place to start. Be kind of fluid over the next few years anyway, so something that's always gonna pop up. Okay,
and most of us gonna be in the 1,500 for 1 year. I mean, the majority of those are gonna be. You know, and so that way, but when they come to us and the cost of doing them all, we can discuss it before they're approved. So. Anybody else have any question?
Do we have these agreements when we did the new stadium?
We used the sample contract that Dusty drew up for us. And that's what really spurred this, was like, we've never had an agreement for anything in place. And so that's really the reason we're here, just to make sure that we have a universal form in place, so that when we do make an agreement, we have something in writing that August files, it's on record. And so if one of us isn't here that was involved with that, it's easy to be able to pull that file that releases the agreement.
Any motion?
If you guys are ready to approve, or if we kick it, it's up to you guys.
I have moved to approve the advertising agreement as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 6-1.
So August will add this to that policy as an attachment. Does that fit? Does that sound right? Kind of how we do attachments. Yeah. Cool.
Parking lot bid.
Yeah, this was in our capital outlay plan. So Andrew put together a bid and RFP and sent it out. And all the materials that we received back were there in your board docs.
So what is a sales tax that will be required? Is that?
To prove that we're exempt.
Z with a Z on the end.
I seen that.
What is that?
I did care.
It says sales tax APEC will be required. Says it's excluded.
Project exemption certificate, so it
Yeah, you'll just
covers,
have to issue a tax exemption.
I have to file with Kansas Department of Revenue, and it just takes us getting us some additional information from there, and it allows them to go out and use our tax exemption status to purchase the materials that they bring around and come back to us. Otherwise, we would have to buy it directly, and it just gives them the ability to get their materials using our tax exemption. But I have to file it at state saying, yes, I authorize.
And then I should disperse an expedited freight, that would come back to us if we would decide to do that, that additional cost, is that right?
Right now, the lead time is looking at 4 weeks. So, I mean, unless we feel strongly and
I think at this point, 4 weeks isn't gonna make that much difference. It's gonna be Thanksgiving, so. by the time you get it. So,
Any other questions?
Well, might be 4 weeks before it gets good too, so.
yeah, and then it might be January first before we can work on it.
I move to give final approval to accept the bid for the replacement of the parking lot lights at CCCMS from Advanced Electric in the amount of $8,286.40.
Second.
In a second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. It's at the facility day. Where it's got a schedule, put their intended schedule for the 28th of October. Will that work? For everybody? It's the same day we talked about the last meeting, just didn't finalize it. Questions? So, make a motion for special meeting.
Probably.
I'll make a motion to have a special meeting, October 28th, 2024. For facilities tour that will start at 8:45 a.m. at the Lincoln School Bus area. Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
And let's go ahead and just meet at the bus barn and then we'll let them get settled and get everyone where it'll probably be less traffic back there. And then we'll shift over once they get settled, if that works for you guys.
Can we eat lunch with the students? Since we're at the high school before and after lunch.
Sure. We'll eat in the cafeteria.
We get cookies this time.
Yeah, Joy's here. We don't even have to pass along communication. There you go.
So then the next meeting, we'll have the annual food service for Joy, report from her. Anything else, like I say, time to think about it or whatever, email me, let me know. Make sure we get it on there. I don't know if we have, anybody signed up besides me on the agenda thing, but if so, just let
Now you're at risk because I did the sign up. She just got, so now we gotta find it. I'll pass it along to her. Let her manage that again. And if it's okay with everyone, we try to get all of our directors in front of you once a year at a minimum for an annual report. That the facility tour date will be kind of Craig and Jason's annual report, just because we're gonna be, if you guys are, I don't, no need to, in my mind, bring them in for an extra meeting, but.
And, when we talked about the BHS versus something.
Yes, so BHS will be there. They've completed our facility audit. I think they have north of 500 hours in our facilities. And so I did a first review with them the other day and they're making some tweaks and they're gonna have some. So all of you will have a copy of their report that day and they'll be present to kind of talk about why they put it on there, what they put on there. And then Brandon with SBT will be there when we hit those projects that they're writing the scope for now, in case you have any questions on those. And they have he has a lot of experience in our facilities anyway, so if there's other questions that come up, they'll be there. And so we'll be a semi-big group, but hopefully we'll accomplish what we want to accomplish, so.
Anything else? If not, we'll take a short break. And then we'll come back and about executive session.
Can I get board members?
Take glasses.
But I don't know.
How are you? I'm good. It's by the designated person. Get up and do it.
Thank you.
There you go.
No, I've only done Bill Snyder over and over and then Little Apple.
You need your signs,
November second.
you just have a fancy pole.
Wait a minute, he's got.
That won't be fun.
There's 5,000.
That's all the teachers want.
Snyder's still my favorite by far. I just love that run in.
Think I can run you over?
But, have to start over. The bill? Yeah, now it's not doing track. So you'll be able to.
I never ran that far before, so I ran that yesterday.
Read somewhere that if you run. Yeah, thanks, she just, thanks.
I'm trying to.
Please stop. YouTube is not. He can hear.
It's Candy's fault that I did my first one. I watched you guys training for it. We try, they don't do what I would try.
So I do it. In the morning.
Nice little loop, you go like all the way around town, it's fine.
Sunday morning, if you run out on Broughton, there's no cars.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
See, I just
Other than it's
work for
kinda
my house.
It's true.
Not right now, there's too much.
It's boring. You'd make it justify just running on it.
I'm not that fast.
Around time, that's not gonna be clean. Like, why did you do that?
Joy brought you guys brownies. They were sitting out there.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's her birthday, is why she brought them.
This border, not best.
You're right, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is smart.
No. Gets sheet rock all up and stay, well, upstairs, downstairs, it's gonna be a winter project. Finish that one, yeah. Do that one, so.
I think
Well, like, once I get done planting, so once I get all my wheat in the ground, then I've got a little more time, I can start working on it.
Yeah.
Order the
So I wanna know how many of you guys stayed up till 1:15 and watched K-State.
I did.
I did.
My wife came in and she had been asleep and she came in and she peeked her head in the room. She looked at me and she goes, "You're not asleep?" And I was like, "No, I'm watching the game. I'm struggling, but I'm still awake."
We were at the Tracy Judd Legal's house. My wife goes, "You ready to go home?" I said, "No, we're gonna watch this game." She goes, "You can watch it at home." I said, "Go ahead, I'll walk." Well, she sat there the whole time, so. Well, she's got her foot in the boot still, so
You're waiting on her hand to foot?
every day. Every day.
We're gonna.
She's got a scooter. Call her Scooter Girl. Jacqueline put Christmas lights on it.
Come on.
Yeah.
Flashy, festive.
Yeah. I don't really feel sorry for her, but I do, but it was self-inflicted, so.
Well, she had texted me, I think it was the day after her
Oh, yeah,
surgery.
just on
and she
video.
was like, and she's like, "I'm gonna make it on Monday," and I was like, "That's okay. You can take a couple of days."
She's probably watching.
She is. She's a jerk.
This is where you say, and I love her so completely.
She knows.
She's.
That's like the old thing. Al says, "I love you first," and you go, "I know." That's not the response she wanted. Now she's gonna be by herself for the rest of the week.
What are you saying? Of that Christmas light?
Yeah, they're not out.
I might have to run down.
Yeah, she'll be there.
Well, I plan on.
Yeah.
Down there. Thursday, no, Thursday, Friday,
Friday, well, Friday she won't be there.
the Thursday, they.
And see. With Dan.
Thank you for sharing.
That's joy.
I told her I'd come sit with her. She told me to stay away.
Okay, go ahead and resume the meeting here. Just that, I'm gonna be going into executive session to discuss private personnel matters pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption under KOMA. And that the open meeting shall resume at 7:45. The executive session should include the board, superintendent, and council. So, there's a second, all those in favor? Motion carries.
Yeah, that's not negative.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah, the next day in summer.
That's what I've heard. Well, Michael would say there won't be one.
What's that?
You guys find something.
Just that.
I did, that was good. I needed it. It's really good. Everything, that's very good.
Oh, for next,
It don't really matter.
Just like,
or 2 weeks from now, you worry about the lunch maybe?
always worried about them. You guys are priorities, aren't
Yeah,
I would go that far, but. All this is not chicken patty or a hamburger, we're gonna do it.
there's choices.
The choices,
You know what? We could just tell her to make each line just add a few more so that way they can whichever line they want. So,
so, can't be that tough. Oh,
if you go with the Sarah.
No, I was gonna stay in there.
Oh, okay. I said, okay.
Sheet talk.
All right, we'll go ahead and resume regular meeting. I'd like to make a motion for $200 each for the 3 months extra work and time. Augusta was
Second.
motion and second. All those in favor? Move to executive session, to discuss student matter pursuant to the actions in the open meeting shall resume at 7:55 in the boardroom. The executive session will include the board superintendent and council.
Second.
All those in favor? Seven. 7:50.
I'll just wait to take a look at it. Maybe you wanna send it and I'll be. I don't know. That's all right.
Yeah.
I'll take care of the food, you got the rest, cause I won't be with you guys that day. Okay.
And, but should we tell her, I mean, like, are we feeding Brandon and whoever's gonna be you?
Yes.
So just give her a number. That's 7, 8,
7 more
9,
numbers.
10, plus maybe greater.
Brad, Craig, Jason, August, and how many from? Asia?
I don't know, if just 1. 15 of those.
Okay.
And last time I texted her that morning, because if you let them know by like 9 o'clock that morning. What if the count in, so I don't know if. We need to narrow down more, or they can. I'm not sure how much extra. They usually make.
I think yeah. Think all of that's just regulars. She had no comment.
Or Logan, this past week, was second week that he's gone 5 days since. Most of them 3, so.
And we'll resume the regular meeting. Moving on, the next item is for personnel. Any questions on the personnel report? I move to approve the personnel report, including supplemental updates as presented.
Second.
The second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. And adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Appreciate everybody coming.
Man.
28.
And you just print this off, and you don't have to schedule and take him to come for you, or take him someplace else.
So,
Just take it
you
online.
gotta redo yours, like.
I gotta renew mine too, so if I, well, I had to take the test, and then we can go in there at the same time, I can make an appointment, you can just go down the claim and get a picture taken.
Well, this is baby week for us, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That one just. Gotta work with it.
Grandbaby.